Hey Sylvia.
Hey Kev.
How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank
You're
you.
wonderful.
Very happy to be here on this beautiful morning. I have a little glimpse of the sky there, so that's always nice.
Yeah, and also we got Alfie here, so hopefully he doesn't bark. I'm sure he'll be all right.
I don't mind.
He looks pretty sleepy. How you keeping?
Yeah, top form, thank you.
I've never actually spent any time with you and getting to know you. I'm going to put this a bit closer to your face. You want to slide yourself forward just a tad more. I've never really spent any time with you. I've only met you and spoke to you through the teacher training. How long have you done that for? Because I've only just started in the teacher training world. How long have you been doing that for?
I am going to guess this one. I think 4 years now. Yeah, maybe longer. Yeah, maybe longer. How long has Yoga Hub been doing teacher training? Maybe 4 to 6 years at this point.
Yeah.
So we've put out quite a lot of teachers out there.
And how do you find... Because to give you my experience, every module, every time I go to teach, I feel quite a lot of pressure, to be honest, because I see these, the people, the trainees, as it's a big responsibility, not just the financial commitment that they've made, but to spend a whole weekend with people and to, it's really important to me that I do well. Whereas now with like classes, I still get a bit nervous teaching classes, but I have my routine, you know, and I can, even if I'm feeling quite tired, I can do an hour class, you know, because I know what I'm doing. But with the teacher training, because it's new territory for me, I feel very, I feel like 6 hours essentially. So to let people know the format in Yoga Hub anyway, is it's 12 to 6 on a Saturday. That's what I do. And then the co-lead, she will do the next day, the Sunday. And I'm now starting to be able to enjoy it because I know the flow of the day. You know, I know when the breaks are, I know the format, I've got my head together a little bit more. But I still feel like a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I think maybe that's quite important. And I was saying to my girlfriend Rach that like, you often the things that are really important to you, you'll never feel like you're actually ready to do them.
True. Yeah,
and maybe if I feel like I got it this weekend, I know everything I need to do. I'm on top of it, because not feeling ready gives me a kick up the arse to be like, right, I want to prepare.
To be on this.
Exactly, on this. So what's been your journey? That's the word they use in yoga a lot in terms of teacher training and how it's changed for you.
Yeah, I have to say it hasn't got easier, wouldn't you think? You know, a couple of years into a career, you could say, oh yeah, it's easy now, I stroll in. But I think you recognise more and more the responsibility, not just to the people in the room, but ultimately to what they're going to be teaching. You know, our influence goes long beyond the 6 hours in the room with them. Ultimately, what we're saying to them is, this is how I think a good yoga teacher should communicate and behave, and I'm passing that on to you to go out into the world and pass on to other people. So there's a huge responsibility there, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? And then with the changing world, we have to stay on top of what's relevant, what's current thought, where do we need to swing a little bit and pull back a little bit, where is fluidity needed?
And also, as you said, to stay on top of the changing cultures. Because, say, for example, the whole, like the next module for this teacher training is ethics of yoga teaching. And last week, the Bikram documentary was on TV.
Sure.
And this is something where I've realised as a teacher, you're more effective if you prompt questions as opposed to give your opinion. So say, for example, I say, well, this is right and this is wrong in terms of ethics. I don't think that's a wise way to encourage people to think for themselves. And instead what I've realised is, just generally speaking, and this could be like whether it's about ethics or about how to engage your hip flexors, to almost like teach in a way where you're constantly asking them to teach themselves and encourage curiosity. Have you found though that since you've been started teacher training, you've changed your method of delivering it?
Very much. Yeah, very much. And just back to your previous point, I find as a teacher trainer that we learn an awful lot from the people who are in the room, because the people who are studying yoga teacher training, they're the ones who are out there soaking it all up. They're the ones who are going to all the classes and experiencing firsthand what's happening out there in the yoga world right now. So I love opening up conversations, let's even go back to ethics, talk about your experience. Share that with the rest of the group. How did that make you feel, that situation? What went wrong? What can go wrong? How can we best serve our students? I suppose what we need to do more and more of now, is invite kind of everything into the room, the good experience and the bad.
Yeah.
And learn from that.
Yeah.
And support each other in that space.
Yeah, and actually making it personal is so important, because often if you're referencing other people, other situations, there's conjecture there. You're speculating a little bit. But when you talk...
It's true.
And I've noticed that I have all my plan, my theory and what I'm teaching. But as soon as I go off script and I start telling a little story about what happened to me in class, I can see people like leaning forward.
Yeah.
And they
we love that, don't we? Yeah. Yeah.
As opposed, and I'm thinking, this is kind of on the curriculum, but it's not what I was planned to say.
Sure.
But that speaking personally, I think you do leave yourself a little bit vulnerable, because you take down that veil of I know what I'm doing all the time.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Do you actually see that as a way that's changing now? So say for example, a yoga teacher who maybe be teaching for like 30, 40 years and they're not on social media, they don't do that. So you don't, it's a bit like movie stars back in the 1950s. We knew nothing about Marlon Brando and his personal life. We didn't know, there was no one like photographing him getting out of a taxi with a young harlot or whatever. All we knew is Marlon Brando is a god, and he is, you see him in the movies and there's like the cinema screen, and that's all we know about him. But now actors, we know what they eat for lunch and stuff. And with yoga teachers, it feels to me that once upon a time maybe it was like, wow, there's the yoga teacher, they must eat clean all the time and be so disciplined. But instead these days with Instagram and social media, people know that I've got a dog and like my life isn't that glamorous at all, and and maybe I think that's affecting how we can communicate with students. So what do you think of my theory?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Don't we all love a bit of transparency and a bit of reality? And I think that your students do light up a little bit when they see that you are a flawed human just like them. I think we're kind of past the guru does everything right and arrives in, cloaked in this air of mystery and silence. I think we want to be able to relate to our thought leaders now, don't we? A little bit more.
But then there is a thin line also between, not a thin line, but a way of communicating that it's okay to be not always have the right answer, but yet to still be professional, or to still, because a bit of self-deprecation can be nice. But if the person is going into a realm where they just seem like they're not confident, you're like, well, I want to know someone is in charge here. I think is like we look to someone generally who knows what they're doing.
I agree completely. And I think for us as well as teachers, not just in the teacher training realm, but as yoga teachers, I think what saves us there is our commitment to our path. That we have the discipline to come back to the yoga mat again and again and again. And not necessarily saying, all yoga teachers have to have a daily practice. But I think most of us revert to that daily practice in whatever form it comes, maybe just 10-minute meditation or your mindful walking the dog. But I think we walk the path even though we fall off the path, and we're not perfect. But we do come back. And that's kind of the difference, isn't it? That's kind of the authenticity that we bring into the room is, I actually do this. I'm committed. I'm not a perfect yogi, but I am committed to this path because it serves me well and I love it.
Yeah, as you said, your practice could take different forms, but I think it's communicating to people that it's really helped you, and I think that is the key thing. That I was so self-conscious when I first started doing yoga because I couldn't like sit cross-legged at all. Like couldn't really sit on the floor in any way. Couldn't kneel down. I need like two bolsters, and this is. I thought, how can I teach yoga if I need two bolsters to sit on the floor? I don't, and I see these other people sitting in lotus, and I think I can't do this for a living. But I don't know what my point is. My point is that I realised what my strengths were then. I thought, okay, I can't do that, but what else can I do? And I can't speak. I don't normally speak about the chakras, for example, but I love talking about the anatomy of the body. So therefore that can be my strength. I mean, I've had people say to me, "Man, I've learnt so much in your class about the anatomy because."
Pop it in here and there
because I love it, and that's as opposed to trying to force myself into being what I thought the teacher was.
Sure, and I think part of that is letting go of ego, isn't it? Because as yoga teachers, we love being good at our fancy yoga poses. And do we feel somehow? I know I certainly felt this, an obligation to be the best person in the room at yoga. Which of course doesn't always happen, I mean, I don't have a perfect handstand. Does that mean I'm never going to teach handstands because I'm not going to be the best person in the room handstanding? No. I can teach handstand now and say, hey, I don't have a great handstand. Let's go on this journey together,
That's a really important point, actually. And I want to develop that with you because I've heard people say, that if you can't do a pose, you shouldn't teach it.
That's right.
But to me, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, sure.
How would you say, for example, if you're teaching a handstand and there's people in the room that could do it more efficiently than you can, how would you deliver that then? Would you say, like, look at these people that can
sometimes, sometimes... First, I very rarely teach handstand, so this doesn't happen much. It would probably be more in the teacher training environment or maybe yoga hub workshop environment that I would teach handstand, not necessarily in my 1 hour weekly class. So in that environment, I love a bit of messiness. I love when the room is kind of like a toddler room at Montessori, and that gives some people then the freedom to sit it out and observe, the people who are like, no, I'm never going to do a handstand. I'm just going to sit and watch, because usually people are pretty tired by that stage as well. And then the ones who are very confident and expressive can go and do their thing. And sometimes I might be like, whoa, watch, but not always. I don't know. I don't have a strict rule on that. When I was studying Anusara yoga, which was very focused on accomplishment of challenging yoga poses, we were actively taught back then to do the whole, stop, clap, round of applause, you're all amazing. That was actually, That was actually a taught element of the class. Whereas now I love when that happens spontaneously, but I don't seek it out. So if it happens that one person ends up accomplishing something they didn't before and people spontaneously clap, wonderful. But imagine, it was actually considered an essential part of the class that would be a feature.
That you'd applaud the person.
Yeah.
And congratulate.
Yeah.
That's interesting because when I first started teaching, I haven't been teaching nearly as long as you have, but when I first started, I would feel like, right, I'm in control. When I come in the room, everyone has to be quiet. Yeah. And because I was so like...
I'm the boss.
I'm the boss. Because I was so... Both of that's insecurity coming out to be like, if someone is talking and I'm talking, I'm like, I feel like they're not respecting me.
Yeah.
And then, so when it came to inversions or maybe a peak pose in a class, I would have it be like, right, this is the way it's done. We're all doing it this way, and then let's move on. So everything was kind of
very structured.
Structured, yeah. Whereas now, what I'll do is I'll say, grab your mat, use the wall if you want to, and then people start talking. Whereas before, when people would talk with each other in a class, I'd get very uncomfortable with that, to be like, oh,
Yeah.
you're talking and maybe you're disturbing other people. And
Sure.
whereas
Yeah.
now I'm kind of learning to be a bit more, as you said, kind of let it be like it was a kindergarten or something, Montessori. Because, and actually I want to ask you about that, about talking in class. This is an interesting one, because some studios I teach at, or some, not even studios, but some environments I teach at, you walk in and everyone's completely quiet, and that's the way people want it. And some, everyone is talking. When I went to London to do yoga, I walk in and it's like going into a house party without them,
interesting.
What's your thoughts on that?
It's a good question, because I'm kind of in that space at the moment with the decision I'm making about one particular venue I teach in. And I, like you, would always have preferred the vibe of the yoga space is a little sacred. And let's try and be a bit more silent and respectful of people who need a bit of quiet time on their mats before the class begins. However, increasingly, I'm seeing the value of the yoga space as a part of our community where we can encourage community, which is lacking, Yeah. So now a big emphasis on the vibe that I create in the yoga space is, let's be a bit nice to each other and have a bit of a laugh and make eye contact and chit-chat a little bit. So the particular class I'm thinking about, the vibe now when you walk into the room, it's like walking into a party a little bit. And in the room, I do see people who are lying down on their mats and maybe doing a little bit of relaxed abdominal breathing. But I think they're cool with that. Again, I suppose it's a very inclusive environment where, if you want to be a bit quiet, come in and sit down quietly or lie down and start your breathing. If you're fancy a bit of chat, well, there's a little bit of banter going on there in the corner. You can join in there.
I like that. I like where this. I just thought of something there where as you're saying that, it's a bit like you have people in Shavasana and an alarm goes off, or someone's beeping their car outside. Do you, like, are you the kind of person to be like, oh, my Shavasana's ruined now?
My day is ruined.
Or can you, like, the teacher will say, meditate on the sound of the alarm beeping. To be like that, because that, and I think that's actually a brilliant point you've brought up, because you can say to people, look, come in and have your moment to do your breathing and meditation, whatever you want to do. But if other people are making noise, they're not doing it. They're never going to be doing it in with bad intentions. They're doing it because they want to socialise. They're happy. Often people are laughing. So, like, can you actually focus on your breath and use this as, if you want, as a test, if you're that way inclined, or can you meditate or be happy that people are being social and have that as almost like your music?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think that I am, as I mentioned to you downstairs, I was so resistant to doing yoga at the start because I felt like it was like mass, and I actually think religion is a very not religion, but I think maybe religion. No, I think religion can be very useful and very help people a lot for community. But what I'm talking about is the authority, and to be like, oh, this is it now. It has to be this way. Sit down, kneel up, stand. And I'd like to kind of move away from that. And I think what you said there is...
although I think still people really value an authority and a presence in the yoga space. Even if our vibe is, oh, let it be for a while. Let the chatter happen. Let it be a bit messy. But... I think they're comfortable in that space because they know or they trust you as their teacher or their leader, at the right time. The teacher is going to say, okay, everyone, like there's still that element that there will be structure coming.
It's how you deliver it, isn't it? If you come across as the like non-negotiable, this is the way it is. And also I think if you use the language you use and how you use it, like if you're like, me and you, and as opposed to we stuff like this,
it's true.
It can make a big difference, and that whole area is really interesting. And that's actually what I really like about teacher training is that I did a module last 2 weeks ago, and it was about communicating in the yoga class, and I find this fascinating, like what words use, how it can make people feel, and how words are so powerful, and even saying things like, when we put our knee on the floor, sometimes it can kind of hurt, can't it? So you can put a blanket underneath, as opposed to, I put my knee down, but if you need a blanket, you take a blanket, like that, and it sounds so minor. But you're being considerate if you're of the person, of their experience, if you can use language like we.
Sure. It's so much more inclusive, isn't it?
And it's more inclusive, and also that is a huge. That's the beauty of teaching and teacher training, is that these little things that you can't really share with anyone else, you get to share with people who want to be yoga teachers, or. And it's almost like you can nerd out with these people. Yeah. One actually part of my yoga teaching that I want to develop more is a mindfulness practice, and this is actually part of the reason I was so interested to talk to you, because you are Firstly, what is the acronym
SR?
MBSR.
Short for mindfulness-based stress reduction.
Mindfulness-based stress reduction. Okay. Is that a course?
It is a course. So, will I tell you a little bit of background?
Please.
Yeah. So, this course, the MBSR course, was developed out of the University of Massachusetts, by an incredible teacher, John Kabat-Zinn. I'm guessing 20 years ago. And now it's being taught all over the world. And a couple of other universities in the world have kind of picked up the Masters in Mindfulness, which teaches teachers to teach this MBSR course. So as a participant, if you're doing the MBSR course, it's 8 weeks in duration. Your practice is 2.5 hours once a week with a teacher, and you're expected to do homework daily. So it is quite a big commitment. I have just completed my first MBSR course. I went into it thinking, I know all this stuff. I've been meditating for years. And wow, am I completely mind blown by it.
Yeah. What's been like the main discoveries for you?
I suppose, it's so hard to articulate, isn't it? I think I touched on meditation and mindfulness 1,000 times before. Scratched at the surface and loved it. Loved what I was experiencing. In this course, I just went a lot deeper into awareness, inner awareness, deeper inside to the silence and the noise and the scary stuff and the emotions and the physical effects of the emotions and the curious journey into all of that. So loved it.
And what's the chap's name?
John Kabat-Zinn is the original guy. But it's influencing what a lot of the thought leaders now are saying and doing. So Tara Brach would be kind of the person out there now who's really kind of preaching that same message in a very accessible way. So everything Tara is saying and doing is reflective of this.
Is she more like, she does more stuff online, like videos, and I've seen videos of her.
Yeah, I'm listening to her podcasts. Yeah. So what she is emphasizing for us is, and this was the big shift for me. So I suppose up to a point, mindfulness, meditation, yoga, all of that for me was kind of like a time out from my busy, noisy life. So I would come to my yoga mat and I would switch off, connect with my breath, smell the nice incense, listen to the nice music. It was escaping in a very pleasant way. Yeah. And that's very valuable, isn't it? Like for so many people, that's the goal, right? Just lower the stress levels, quieten everything down. So definitely value and merit to that. However, I didn't realise this, but there is action required. It's not just, chill out and relax and listen to your breath. It is, look inside what's going on, It's like the Rumi poem, sit with the dark thought, the shame, the malice. That's the tricky bit. That's where the inquiry comes in. And of course, most of us are like, with all that stuff, So it's just interesting to know that meditation can be escapism. It can be, Tara calls it a trance, that we kind of trance ourselves. The breath, the breath, the breath, the breath. Don't think about any other shit. The breath, the breath, the breath. Whereas, can you sit in your house and let what does sadness feel like? What does regret feel like? What does shame feel like? That's the stuff that's hard.
You were saying that you don't have a TV.
We have a TV at home, so I have kids. Yeah.
You just don't watch TV.
I don't watch a lot of TV. No. I enjoy the odd bit as a break, but
because that is escapism.
Sure.
Definitely. And
sure.
I went when I first moved in here. I didn't have a TV. I have a TV now, but I never watch it like that. When I first moved in here, I went through a little period of I'd come in, sit down on my couch, turn the lights off, and just stare out the window.
Yeah.
And I would just try to feel what I was feeling, you know. And yeah, a lot of time it was sadness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weird, isn't it?
Is that the one we bury the deepest, maybe?
Maybe, yeah. I think because I regard myself as a very happy-go-lucky person. But when, maybe that we're made to think that sadness is weakness and tears are weakness,
especially for a man. But also, sadness it's unpleasant, isn't it? Are we afraid that if we indulge sadness, that we'll just fall into the depths of sadness? Is that what we're afraid of? That it's going to be just so sad we'll never climb back out?
Yeah.
But
when you have a cry, you feel much better, don't you?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you feel better, but socially you don't. It depends who sees you crying. I cried about 3 weeks ago. It was on a Sunday. And it was, I won't say who, but it's in front of a member of my family, and it didn't make me feel good.
That's a pity.
It didn't feel. I felt like, because especially with your family, you want you maybe you don't see them that often. I don't see them that often. Like once a week, which isn't that often, really.
Sure, not
and normally
really.
It's in a little snippet where
it's all
we're talking
rushed.
about the dog or something, or what we should paint the wall, what colour. And then if they see you say crying, for example, that's quite extreme, and it's maybe it gives the impression that you'll always feel like crying, whereas I very rarely do.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with my life, and I mean I'm very excited about the future, but yet feeling sad, as you said, it can feel like it's never gonna end.
Overwhelming.
But whether it's like male or female, even I think in the work environments now, the way work is structured is you're rewarded if you're competitive. You're rewarded for your numbers, can you dominate in terms of how popular can you be? Let's be real here.
Of course.
A yoga business, they want to know who's bringing the most people.
Sure.
Are they popular? And not only that, but are they repeat people that come in?
Yeah.
So and therefore it's quite a masculine trait to be like, okay, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to get it, and and I feel, and what I've experienced before is that women in the workplace, or people who identify as women, don't feel like they couldn't cry in front of their boss or any of their colleagues, because it's seen as a weakness. So I actually think that male or female crying is kind of frowned upon. I
suppose the question is, how do we support our students in all of, how do we help people then with all of that?
Yeah.
And managing those emotions. I've been teaching a lot more recently meditation in the workplace, and I'm finding that a really interesting space to be in. So typically when I'm teaching clients in the workplace, I either have a small group or I'm one-on-one. And the spec is very broad. It's, mindfulness meditation. But in fact, what I'm teaching them is a little bit of chair yoga and teaching them how to, I suppose, reside in the space within where they're very aware of what's going on, but just a little bit of kind of boundaries, maybe like a little bit of poker face, you know, so that they can kind of own their presence, like Tadasana. So you're kind of feeling connected in your physical body. And that's all linking in with mindfulness as well, awareness of the earth beneath you, and I'm grounded and I'm on my chair and my feet are on the floor. And then the emotion can go through you, like I want to burst out crying, or I want to tell my boss to fuck off, or whatever it is, that can swirl through you. But because you've cultivated your kind of breath awareness and your boundaries and your poker face to an extent, you can just own your moment a little more. So it's kind of more empowering people to connect with the emotion, but maybe not necessarily be completely transparent in that moment.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah, to as you said, to own the emotion.
Yeah,
and to not be a victim of the emotion.
Yeah. And in a way, like there's almost a little bit of acting going on, isn't there? But that's important in the workplace. Like we can't lose it everywhere we go. Now, different with your family or your loved ones, we'd like to think that you don't have to have that boundary in place there, but maybe you do.
Maybe we do. I mean, I think that authenticity, the last time we were authentic was when we were a baby pooing our pants and screaming for food. That was the last real time we were ever authentic. And Seth Godin said that. Ever since then, we've been putting on clothes, brushing our hair, doing certain things so that people feel a certain way about us. And that is, otherwise we were going around, acting like kids.
Doing what we want.
Doing what we want, exactly. Yeah. And in terms of the workplace, and maybe family life as well, it's to recognise that you can have a spectrum of emotions in your life, but to not be susceptible to that affecting your actions all the time. It's okay to be sad, to be angry and stuff, but it's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to be violent.
Sure.
It's okay to be sad, but maybe it's not okay to cry.
If you're
a doctor, for example, and you're giving someone bad news, you need to be their rock.
Sure.
So in that example, so that's really interesting, because I never thought of it like that. I always thought, just express yourself in any way that you want. I think in a class, say like teaching yoga, I do this meditation at the end of class. I did it last week. I got it from Max Strom, and it talks about being grateful for someone, and imagine they're in front of you and this type of thing.
Nice.
And without fail, people will cry doing that.
Yeah.
And I realised that it's important, I think, as a yoga teacher, to make people feel something, or to at least encourage that, or to give them create an environment where that's available to them. And that could be crying, it could be laughing, it could be something. It's great to like do a technical class where you're just letting people, and maybe that's all they need, maybe. But to take it to the next level, I think encouraging feelings is powerful.
Sure.
What do you think about humour then in class?
Yeah, love a bit of humour. But I think it has to be spontaneous, hasn't it?
Yeah, you can't be like, get a joke book out.
I know.
Yeah, I know. That's so spontaneous is key.
Yeah. And nicer even when it's a collective humour, that someone in the class is somehow involved in the humorous moment, and that you're not like the stand-up just reciting jokes, that you're kind of reacting to what is presenting itself in the moment.
Yeah, it's funny, I was watching believe it or not, Toastmasters. They have a Toastmasters World Championships.
Oh, interesting.
And I was listening to the world champion of Toastmasters.
Wow,
cool. He's the greatest public speaker in the world, technically speaking.
Yeah.
And this guy's a prodigy, because he started public speaking. He joined Toastmasters in I think it was 1989, and he won it in 1990, the World Championships. He won it the next year, so he's a natural. But one point he made, which was really interesting, was he goes, do you want your speeches, or do you want it to be funny? People say yes, but do you want what you say to be funny, or and people say yes, and he says no, what you want is for there to be humour when it's not expected. When
Yes.
something happens, particularly if it's like a dialogue or for some another source, not you but someone else,
Yeah, okay.
and you can notice that a bit of humour might help to relieve tension.
Yeah.
Because I found that, like, say there's tension in class, and you trying to feel like you're managing the room well, a little bit of a laughter can kind of make kind of especially on the teacher training.
Sure, we need it. Yeah, we need it. Everyone's serious in that space.
And it's a really, would you say it's a really emotionally charged environment?
Yeah, for sure.
Why is that? Do you think?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I suppose multiple reasons. The participants in the room, I feel, in general, have a lot at stake, you know. People show up to teacher training, usually having put a good bit of thought into it, maybe saved up for a while, maybe skipped holidays or, you know, made sacrifices for it. Usually people showing up to teacher training are kind of at a phase in their lives where, you know, they're succeeding, you know, things are going well, they're in that kind of high achieving space. So the pressure that they have on themselves for excellence is there, you know, and we train ourselves to do that. You know, we show up for yoga, all of us, not even people doing teacher training, but we tend to bring our best selves to the yoga mat. You know, we tend to show up fully present and wanting to participate well and do our best, eager, like little puppies, you know. So I think that is very compelling for people. You know, I'm doing this wonderful thing for myself called teacher training. I'm going to do it really, really well. I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. And that puts pressure on us, doesn't it? You know, the desire for perfection and excellence, which again is reflected very much in society now. We have to tick every box.
Yeah, so true. And so not only the pressure, but also the physical, how demanding it is physically. I mean, try and sit on the floor. Yeah. Try and sit on a wooden floor for 6 hours.
I know.
Without a back support.
Yeah.
It's pretty difficult.
It's hard.
Once your body starts hurting, your lower back is hurting, your legs, knees, whatever it is, hips, and you're not used to sitting on the floor, that will affect your emotions.
Yeah.
I think.
Sure.
You know, and add on top of that, you're doing 2 practices a day, often 90 minutes each.
Yeah. And it's a long period of time, isn't it? The 12 to 6. Mm-hmm. It's a long time to be in a very focused space. Mm-hmm. You find the same thing on yoga retreats, you know, because people are spending a lot of time with each other day and night. There's more yoga than usual. It's just exhausting to be in that space.
Were you just in Hungary?
I was just in Budapest,
Were you a guest or a teacher?
No, I was the teacher.
Your teacher?
Yeah. It was amazing. I loved it. Yeah.
Hungary is at Budapest, did you say?
Budapest, yeah.
Okay. Were you in Buda or Pest?
We were in Buda.
I'm proud
Pest.
that I
Which
know
side?
that.
I don't know.
It's my chance to show my knowledge.
Yeah, I only found that out while I was there. Yeah.
And how long was that for?
It was a really nice little snippet of time, actually. Friday evening to Sunday lunchtime. So it's very much weekend focus. Now, a lot of the guests, including myself, went on the Thursday night.
Okay.
So we had the Friday to kind of chill and potter around Budapest. And then we meet Friday evening for opening practice. We have a meal together Friday night. These retreats are very social. Mm-hmm. In their focus, a very early morning, Saturday morning practice, long leisurely brunch, and then we went off and did the baths in Budapest together. So that was a bit of fun.
Did that.
Oh, it's fun.
So is that like all female?
No, it's all
mixed. And you wear your togs?
Very casual. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And then is it a case of people come over and wash you, or do you just?
No, everyone just does their own thing. There's loads of spaces to wander around and various pools that you can just loll around in.
Outdoor?
Outdoor and indoor. I didn't visit the outdoor area, but there is a beautiful outdoor area there as well. I'd say it's amazing in summertime.
Well, I was talking to someone about this yesterday. When I lived in Korea, we used to go to, I think they call it gojubang. Oh, is that the karaoke? Anyway, but we used to go to these baths, and that was the main place where people socialise.
Cool.
So all the men would go one side, all the women go on the other side, and you wouldn't wear any clothes. You go naked, and people would come over and wash you And same in Morocco.
Interesting.
People would like offer to wash you. So it's like, you know, you've got another man holding up your arm, cleaning your armpits,
Wow.
cleaning everywhere, basically.
Really?
Yeah. And you just sit around and people would be talking business or talking about family and this type of thing.
Sure.
And it's interesting to see how in Korea now that is dying away, because
Is it?
Korea is becoming, they have the most amount of like e-athletes. Do you know what that is? An electronic athlete. So someone who is a professional gamer.
Really?
They have the highest amount. But they're like, you know, Brazil are number one in soccer.
Yes.
You know, in the World Cups and stuff. Korea are number one in
How interesting.
in online gaming.
I did not even know that was a thing.
Yes, a thing. Oh yeah, and now they have online gaming events where they'll fill out a stadium like 80,000 people to watch people play computer games.
Wow.
Yeah, and so, but what you'll notice is that generation now in Korea are not going to these, not socialising this way. They're socialising virtually online.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's completely different. But
That's a shame.
yeah,
Where's that going to go?
well, it's. I think this is how the world is going. I mean, this is the thing about podcasting, Sylvia. Is like, as I was saying to you, how often do you sit in front of someone
And
without-
chat.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can meet someone for 5 minutes and you can kind of do your back and forth and the pleasantries, the superficial stuff. But when you actually sit for a long time, you get into stuff that you never normally talk about, you know, and you learn about things about people you never normally would. But and I actually believe that is why there's such a thirst for this type of content.
Authentic connection.
Not necessarily for me, but from anyone, is because people 100,000 years ago would have sat around a campfire telling stories.
Yeah.
But now they don't do that. And I think I think this is why yoga is so popular, because yes, there's loads of online classes, and I would hope, and you do great online yoga classes. Check out Sylvia's website. You do great online yoga classes, and I think there is value in that. But people like to be around people,
For sure.
don't they?
And it's like what we were saying earlier about the vibe in the yoga space, and why sometimes it's of value to let it get a little noisy and social, and for there to be a bit of spontaneous laughter and for that to happen. Because one thing I do find is post-yoga, and this goes with classes and teacher training, once we've done a yoga practice, we can't help it. We're naturally more residing in our authentic selves. You know, the small talk is gone at that point, you know, and the connections are very deep and very real. So it's a ripe time for that sense of community. And that we just are all a bit more nicer to each other, and that go out of our way to make eye contact or smile or just engage in some tiny way.
I think that's why. I think also with the not just the Catholic Church, but also the alcohol industry is not as popular as it once was. It seems to me, and a great way to get to know someone is to have a few beers with them.
Sure.
But if you're not in that world, go into something like yoga. You know, if you read a poem to someone and they just lay down the mat before to the class, you read that same poem to them within Shavasana, they're going to be way more open to it. You know.
Yeah.
And that's what I used to, because when I was younger, I used to do a lot of partying, and basically, like, I've talked about this before, it's not, I mean, I used to do things that aren't, enjoy stimulants that you wouldn't find in a pub, basically, let's put it that way. And what I loved about it was go to Ibiza. I mean, I've been to Ibiza like 4 or 5 times, and you're chatting to someone, you're like, man, like, you're looking at them in the eyes, at each other in the eyes, and you're like, this is a real connection.
Yeah.
And I go into work on a Monday and like, oh, hello, James. How was your weekend?
I know.
Oh, lovely weather we're having, aren't we? Haha, rain again. I can't do this, man.
Yeah.
I feel like so fake.
Yeah.
Doing these, and I understand that you can't like go into work on a Monday morning and say to your boss, you know, are you scared of dying alone? Because you're going to freak him out. You better have to be like, see the game on Saturday?
I know.
And that's fair enough. I understand that. But what I liked about yoga is when I started doing yoga, although there were some things I had resistance to, what I did like, I'm like, there's loads of weirdos here. And I feel like I'm a bit of a weirdo, a bit odd, you know, like, and so this interests me because I can talk about things with people that I would never normally talk about. But the what doesn't happen enough is it used to happen is I'd go in, put a mat down, do yoga practice, wouldn't speak to anyone.
Sure.
And
But that's okay too, you know. I mean, some people are there to go to yoga to just calm down and chill out and get away from their lives.
but if you want to speak to people, I think it's important.
It's nice to have that opportunity there.
To have that opportunity. When you're, I just want to go back to teacher training. When you're training teachers, what do you think is like the main thing you want to get across, or would you say that they pick up from you as opposed that they maybe get from other people? You know, that is your apart from just being able to actually teach a yoga class. What do you try and get across to them?
One quality I really try to convey and to teach them and to help them learn with each other is compassionate listening. Really good listening skills and compassion. It's something that we actively practice quite a bit. We've talked about this earlier, but, you know, less of the I'm the all-knowing authority, I'm the yoga teacher, but more that term that we don't like to use, holding space, you know, just being a good, solid presence in a room for people. So one thing that I try to teach them ongoing from the moment that they start in teacher training with us is good posture, you know, physically, you know, for the physical body. So helping each other with Tadasana, with keeping good alignment as we flow, and cultivating the strength and the awareness in the body to maintain that. But then more so than just your physical presence, kind of, I suppose, a vibe, a welcoming aura, you know, just kind of an open expression, open body language, you know. I mean, it's elusive, and when we see it in somebody, we love it. But the person who just has really good presence is a very comforting person to be around, don't you think? One thing that was very influential for me this year, and it was nothing to do with yoga, I went to an acting workshop.
Oh, really?
It was amazing.
Very
I loved it. Yeah.
Whereabouts?
It was in Temple Bar, and it was part of Culture Night. So it was one of these free workshops in Culture Night. Myself and my friend signed up and went. We met with an incredible acting coach. And essentially she taught us body language as an actor. The title of the workshop was something like Own Your Voice with More Authenticity. So I'm like, perfect. So in we go. But essentially she was teaching us yoga, posture, physical presence, but with fluidity and softness. You know, so one thing that was very new to me was a kind of Tadasana. I always have to bring everything back to yoga and the physical body. A Tadasana as such in the physical body. But as yogis, when we come into Tadasana, we will engage our bandhas. We just kind of do it automatically. But there will be like tone, let's just say, tone there in the physical body in our Tadasana as is needed, because we're going to take our bodies through full range of motion. But on the other hand, if you're acting or presenting or even standing in the room as a yoga teacher, you perhaps don't need that much bandha action. And what she was teaching us was kind of trust the skeleton of your body to support you, but be way more relaxed in your muscles. So for your voice, having a very relaxed lower belly is very important.
Yeah.
Whereas as yogis, we have Uddiyana Bandha, you know, so that shifted things for me.
Interesting. That's so interesting.
Isn't it?
Because
Yeah.
I'm going to a one-day workshop this weekend, this Friday, with Jerry Duffy, public speaking one. It's like
Excellent.
a whole day.
Yeah, how cool.
This is really good.
Yeah.
And so, but I think actually an acting workshop is something that, that type of thing, because if you're uptight and okay like this, you're speaking from your chest. It's you're basically speaking on an exhale as opposed to taking an inhale and speaking from your diaphragm.
Okay.
And when your voice can sound a lot more grounded,
It's all better.
It's so better.
Yeah.
Because the people you're speaking to feel more relaxed. And
Yeah.
and it's funny how you say you're teaching people about their posture, right? But look, we say don't judge people. We all judge each other. We're human beings. When you look at someone, you've got to make a snap judgment. Like,
Sure.
That's survival instinct. And I think that posture is something that subconsciously notice on someone.
For sure.
You know? And as you said, being more open, physically being more open.
Yeah.
So before I teach a class, definitely if I teach a workshop, because I get quite nervous at teaching workshops, I go to the bathroom and I like put my arms in the air. I can't do it because it's not enough room.
Stretch.
Yeah, and it's called a Superman
Okay,
Superman
very
pose,
good.
and this one is called Wonder Woman.
Okay, nice.
And you do that in front of the mirror, and then it's a bit like essentially a little mini back bend, so that when you're going to class, you're more like
sure.
hands out, as opposed to hands behind my back like an authority, which you'll put your hands behind your back sometimes. You don't know what to do with your hands.
I know.
But then you look like a school teacher, like a headmaster, to be like, right, okay, do this, do that. So that, but being more...
a little bit more relaxed with it all. It's so hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially if you're a bit nervous.
You're nervous.
Yeah.
Because when you're nervous, you speak quicker and higher.
Yeah.
But that makes people feel unsettled.
It's all a bit tense, yeah.
Yeah. And what Jerry actually told me before, because he's a guest on this podcast he's a few months ago, was before he starts speaking, he doesn't say anything. All right. So what he'll do is he'll go into a room and he'll be like this.
And just wait. Yeah, nice.
Look around. And then people are like, what's he going to say? And then he'll start speaking, but he'll purposely slow it down.
Silence. Yeah.
Purposely slow it down at the start, and then that has people like, "What's he going to say next?" Changes the volume of how he's speaking, the pitch, the tone, and another thing he talked about is he goes down at the end, not down at the end, down intonation. I finished speaking now.
Yeah,
like,
loads of little tips there.
There's tons. And if you think about like the some of the most influential people in the world are the ones that can communicate the best,
sure.
But not just obviously speaking, but as you said, also like practicing compassionate listening. Is there any? Because this is something I'm working on today. But I said to you at the start before we started recording that like one thing I'm working on is trying to speak less, and obviously it's not really working that well. But what would you say is like any methods or tips about compassionate listening?
I think we both have a course ahead of us in compassionate listening. I think it's that huge. Yeah, that like there is a course out there, and I haven't researched it yet. Okay. It was one week, maybe week 2 of the MBSR course that I did.
Okay.
So just to remind you, that's 2.5 hours in a classroom environment with your teacher.
Yeah.
And then homework every day for the following 7 days, 40 minutes homework. So it's quite a big volume of work. And week 2 we did compassionate listening. We all loved it. It was one of our favourite modules of the course. But our teacher said that she has gone on to study, I'm not sure exactly what course, but some kind of mindfulness-based compassionate listening. And for her, it was the life changer for her. Because in compassionate listening, we're not just trying to be better communicators, we're also becoming better at listening to ourselves. So back to that again. And becoming better at sitting with the noise inside our own heads and being compassionate with what arises there. So it's all back to the self-practice that we need to do on an ongoing basis. But I know that there's so much really, really good material out there in compassionate listening. I feel it's something that we will study more in again and again and again.
In yoga teaching?
Well, people like you and I who are just interested in this stuff, it's going to be coming up more and more for us, which is great. Because
people want to be heard. And when I do a workshop, even a teacher training, I always send feedback forms. What did you like? What did you not like? What could I do differently? And people want to feel like they have some sort of input. There's a thing called the IKEA effect. There's a study that was done by a psychologist, and I believe it's called the IKEA effect. And they essentially got 2 groups of people. And they said, right, this is an IKEA table, for example. This is a table. How much do you think this table is worth? And they would say €100. And then they got people they'd get in the parts of the table to put the table together. How much is this table worth? And they'd actually say it was worth more if they did the labour. Wow. Which is crazy to think that they actually did the labour, they did the work, but they valued it more. Yeah. So when people know that they have input, they feel more valued.
Yes.
But I feel like when you're just teaching public classes or just teaching classes, it's one way. You're very much. Do this, do that, everyone's copying. it's very unusual for someone to speak to you during a class, be like, "Oh, can I ask a question?" It doesn't really happen.
Rarely. Yeah.
And then when you find yourself in a teacher training environment, people are asking you questions, and it's a completely different skill.
Yeah.
To be like, right, how do I
manage this? Yeah. I
You know? And if I don't know the answer, how do I manage it then? Because if I don't know the answer, I'll say, and I'll wait for something. What do you think?
Yeah. Open it up to the group.
Because we were talking about Tantra last week, and it was someone asked a really great question around Tantra, masculine, feminine energy. I didn't know the answer, but then someone who studied Tantra in India, we knew about it, so I was able to kind of bring them into it.
We get so much from our students, don't we?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if I was maybe younger, I would have been like, oh no, I failed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to know everything. And there's so much to know. There's no way we can. Isn't that one thing about being a yoga teacher and a yoga teacher trainer? The more we know, the more we realise how vast it all is and how much there is yet to know.
Yeah.
Which is great. It's very humbling.
Yeah, so true. Okay. The MBSR, you've done that course, but did you say that next you're doing a mindfulness masters?
Yeah.
Is that
that's
like
my hope.
signed, sealed, or you like, is that confirmed?
Yeah, almost.
Where would that be?
I'm on the journey. It's in UCD.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a 2-year part-time course. So for year 1, you fully immerse yourself in the MBSR as a participant. There is an obligation to have a daily meditation practice, and as far as I recall, it's 30 minutes twice a day for the 2 years. I know. And you work with a tutor to support you on that journey, so you can't hide. If you don't show up for your practice, you have to talk to your tutor about why you're not showing up for yourself.
Right.
So, it's very much owning your own journey in all of this. There'll be a lot of journaling, essay writing and exploratory work. And then in year 2, you present the course. You start to teach and you get monitored on that and assessed on that.
Right, okay. And is that over the 2 years, you're still going to, it's part-time?
It's part-time.
Yeah, okay.
It's part-time. I gather it's very manageable. I have quite a few friends who have done it as yoga teachers.
Is that the one that, oh God, his name, he's a yoga teacher at Yoga Hub. Con. Is that one Con did?
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, Con.
Great.
Shout out to Con. I love Con.
Yeah, Con's a winner.
Yeah, Con's a great voice as well.
Yes, and great presence, you see.
Yeah.
The presence again. The presence. Con stands like somebody who owns his own space.
Yeah, he does.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he has that nice kind of gentle, relaxed fluidity about everything he does.
Yeah. And also as well, is interesting about Con is that that he's like a kind of looks like a rugby guy, and yet he's into mindfulness. And I'm like, it's really interesting when you meet people who are like have two characteristics that seem like they don't want to go together.
Love that.
Stephen Fry was talking about this, how you can, when he studied at Oxford, and he was saying how I believe it was Oxford, maybe it was Cambridge, but Stephen Fry, if you don't know who Stephen Fry is, come on. He's like a national treasure in England. He's he's an intellectual, but he's very funny as well.
Yeah.
But he was talking about how like often we feel like you're either an athlete or you're a thinker. To have the two together is kind of unusual. But I think sometimes you pigeonhole people to be like, oh, you're this type of person, you're a jock, therefore you don't have that other side of you. But so it's the course that Con did. Okay, that's interesting, and that is a big commitment. So when you've done that, what do you hope to do with that from there?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's not, I don't have a clear path through life, and I never did. I'm not one of these, I'm going to be this by this. So, I'm going to continue to meander through life, and it's just going to be there with me, supporting me.
Yeah, okay.
But, just back to what you were saying about this kind of, you're either an intellect or a jock. And I think that's changing a lot now. And I'm observing this more in my capacity back out in the corporate world, teaching meditation. And I also had the opportunity this year to work with a team of elite athletes who would not naturally you would associate with yoga and meditation and mindfulness. But I think what's happening now is that we're all recognizing how important meditation, yoga and mindfulness is in the package of what you're doing on a daily basis. And the people who are high achievers, whether it's in the business world or in the sports world, more than anyone, they're getting this, you know, they're kind of receptive. And if you're really good at what you do, you know, if you're really skilled and really committed to, say, playing football, then it's not that difficult for you to apply yourself to the skill of learning meditation. You know, so people who are in that kind of headspace of I'm achieving, I'm in this high achieving space, they're ripe for learning meditation and mindfulness. They're eager, they're with you, they're open, the neural pathways are fired up, you know, they're ready to learn. They're like sponges. It's like teaching kids.
Because they're constantly looking to develop, aren't they?
Eager, yeah, just a great space to be in. And plus, finally, now, we all recognise how important it is. You know, I think there used to be a perception, you know, that type of stuff takes you away from your goals. You're stepping back, you know, you're kind of backing away from your high-achieving life. Whereas now people are like, no, this is propelling me forward on my life.
Look at some of the best athletes. They have psychologists that they work with who, like, teach them how to think, you know, take that away, which makes a huge difference. That's what gives them the edge. But no, that's absolutely fascinating. Are you thinking of, as I mentioned, you've got a very good, nice voice, and I know you said you didn't plan on starting a podcast, but and I mentioned this at the start, I don't know if we were recording when I said it, but you can do like the audio class as well, and you could do audio mindfulness classes, because you don't need to see people doing that. And I think that can be really beneficial, because some people will say, these apps that what they call Headspace apps aren't mindful because, you know, you're having to use a phone. But if it gets you starting,
for sure,
that's the way. Look, we cannot detach from technology now. We've got to integrate it. And you can if you want, but good luck if you want to go somewhere and be a farmer. Good luck with that, because I don't think that's a wise path to go down. I used to work in AI, artificial intelligence. That was my job before I taught yoga. And I realised that this, what they call singularity or transhumanism, is inevitable. So as long as they don't have robot yoga teachers, we'll be all right. But hopefully. Not within our lifetime. But so Sylvia, we're an hour.
Wow, how does that happen? Blink.
When you're having fun. So what is, if people want to know more about you, where'd they go?
My website is sylviayoga.com, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well. I think I'm Sylvia Ferguson Yoga on both. But I'm kind of easy enough to find. Sylvia Yoga.
With a Y.
With a Y. Yeah.
And you do online classes, you do retreats, you do teacher training, you teach classes.
Out in the community, I do,
Workshops?
I'm doing my workshops, I teach a local workshop monthly, and I'll be in Yoga Hub as well, doing workshops in the new year. I kind of tip in and out of Yoga Hub for workshops as well.
Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope to get you on again in 2020.
Thanks, Kev. I'd love that.
Future.
Yeah, so far away.
Thanks so much.
Great, thank you.